Welcome to the ATA podcast, where we talk to former elite athletes sharing their insights and wisdom derived from successfully transitioning into life beyond the game. Very warm welcome to the Athlete Transition Accelerator. We've got a fabulous guest joining us today, Mike Brown, former professional rugby union player, international player, fabulous CV. I mean, Mike, when you look back, 70-odd caps for England, fourth highest number of appearances in the Premiership. You've won the Premiership. You've won the Six Nations. I think you're eighth on the all-time try-scoring list, and you lasted 16 years in a brutal sport, and you're the sort of player that certainly put your body on the line every time you went out to play. So, first of all, a massive thank you for taking the time to join us. Congratulations on what's obviously been a phenomenal career. If I asked you just to kick us off by pulling out a highlight, obviously I've given you a quick overview of the highlights reel. You'll be like every guest, I'm sure, humble. You don't like to talk about yourself too much, but just for the benefit of the listeners, when you look back over those 16 years and all those wonderful experiences you had, if you had to pull out one or two memories that fill you with a sense of pride now, Mike, what comes to mind?
Firstly, I do need to pick you up on one thing. I thought the stats were great. I don't know if they're all right, but the 16 years, it was actually 21 years. And the only reason I said that is because it's been a long, grinding, hard 21
Well,
years.
there you
So
go. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, as long
I
as
had
we
to pick
don't
you up
turn
on that.
around and say, well, I didn't play professional
Every time.
rugby, then we've made a gap in our research. But most of it's right. So yeah, 21
Yeah.
years, even better. Well, you get the award, Mike. We had Joe Jacobson on, who played professional football, and he got to 20 years of elite competition. So you just get the gong now for 21 years. Good for
I
you.
appreciate it.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Football is an easy sport as well, isn't it? So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
joking.
I'm
I'm
glad you said
joking.
it. I'm glad you said
When we
it.
get some backlash, no,
Yeah.
not at all. Anyone that can do their trade at the highest level there, deserves credit and respect from,
Absolutely.
and I certainly do that. So, um, yeah, what's the highlight? Yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, there's the team highlights that I kind of always go back to with the Grand Slam, like you said. That was a big one. First Premiership win for Quins, first in the club's history as well. That was another big one. Two for very different reasons. The Grand Slam was after a really traumatic, disappointing time for English rugby and for us as a group because we got
Hmm.
dumped out of the home World Cup in 2015. Everyone was taking shots at us.
Hmm.
Yeah, we were, at a real low point. Um, so to bounce back and then do that a year later was amazing for that group of people. And then the Premiership win was amazing for the fact that it was probably the tightest group of men that I've been involved in, real proper friends. A lot of guys who have come through academy together, young English group core players that have come through together, and then kind of the gaps were filled in very well with
Yeah.
experienced slightly older campaigners. They weren't old, but the experienced heads that we needed, like Nick Easter and Nick Evans, people like that. We just had so much fun on and off the field, and we played a way that I think everyone loves to play the game, and it was kind of a new way of playing at that time. Real high tempo,
Hmm.
attack from everywhere, um, and we just had that young, exuberant confidence to just be like, sod everyone, we're going to go out and play the way we want to play. And if people don't like it or someone beats us, then fine. But
Yeah.
this is us and this is what we're going to do. And we didn't give a, excuse my language, shit, basically. So
Yeah.
that was
No,
a
no.
good thing to be part of. But then there's the kind of individual things around, uh, once my son was born, he's 7. No, he's 8 today. Sorry. Oh, got that
Oh,
wrong.
wow.
He's
Well,
Oh,
happy
actually 8
birthday.
today.
we'll cut
Um,
that.
yeah. So once he was born, it was like, I want to run out, for a game with him. And I got to do that for my was it 300th, I think, against Saracens on a Friday night. It's always extra special against Saracens. That we had that rivalry at Quins with
Yes.
them. Always extra special at the stoop under the lights. So I got to run out with him, and I got the photo and the shirt from that, and on my wall in the garage. My wife doesn't let it in the house, so or any rugby stuff in the house. So I've got that up somewhere, but yeah, just that sort of memory is special. And then I think most recently, in terms of just my own kind of confidence and strength looking back to a period that was so tough for me when I didn't have a club after my season at Newcastle. I didn't have a club for like 10 months, which was a incredibly tough time, professionally, personally, financially, all those sort of things. But then I managed to get a short-term gig with Leicester Tigers, who I ended my career at.
Yes.
Short-term gig with them just through watching a game, seeing someone get injured who was covering for, the Freddie Stewart, the current England fullback. He was away, so I thought, I'm going to try my luck here. Knew Richard Wigglesworth, had his number, got on with him well. I was like, I'm watching this game. I hope it's not as bad as it looks, but if it is, I'm fit, I'm able, I'm raring to go. I stayed on top of the fitness and the gym work and all that. Was still looking for an opportunity. Knew in my mind I wasn't done, even though, I wasn't probably in anyone's mind at that age as well. So I would have been 37, 36, 37. In anyone's mind, that's it if you're out of the game for that long. So
Yeah.
then managed to go there, have a week's trial at the age of 37. I hadn't had a trial since school,
Yeah.
grassroots rugby. Yeah, got through that, had a short-term few months, and my first game was against Saracens. Hadn't played in however many months before that. A couple of weeks into training, and I got man of match, and that for me was a real high point because of the tough time I kind of had to go through with my family,
Yeah.
thinking that was it for me. I thought, that could be it, even though in my head I knew I wasn't ready to finish. You're going to have those doubts that can kind of put them to bed. And then off the back of that, I stayed there for 2.5 years. So in my own mind, I'm quite proud of that. Yeah,
Rightly
how
so.
I managed
Yeah,
to get
rightly so.
into.
Fabulous memories, Matt. And we'll circle back to that chapter. I think it's interesting. It's almost like your first transition. Am I out? Am I in? And then
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
back in the sport.
Which actually has stood me in good stead for the moments we're talking about now.
Exactly, exactly right. I think just going back because obviously, as you said, over 2 decades at that level, and you're a competitive player. You put your body on the line. We talk to a lot of players, and you never know when that injury might come. You can never absolutely script when you're going to exit your sport, particularly in contact sports. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, Mike, what sort of factors played into your longevity? Because I know a lot of existing, particularly rugby players that will listen, that are still in the game, they're naturally going to admire the fact that you did it for so long at such an elite level.
Yeah.
What wisdom can you pass on to the younger generation? I know there's an element of luck for everybody, of course there
Yeah.
is, but what else would you say helped you play at that level for 21 years?
Yeah, like you said, I was going to start with that. You obviously have that slight element of luck along the way as well. And I guess you're kind of born sometimes with a slight bit of durability, which obviously I have to thank my parents for.
Yeah,
But yeah, in terms of, not just relying on that, spending time, effort, and money from a very early stage of my career on, my recovery, my career basically, being professional. Really invested that time and effort and headspace into those behaviors and habits that then become, to create consistency around that and then just, continue. Getting that in early on. I trained with a lady called Margot Wells, who I was introduced with very early on around speed and power. But the other thing that a lot of people don't know about her is her body management stuff that she does. She has all these exercises, very light with band and stuff like that, which kind of realigns your body to work efficiently and to avoid injury.
right.
So I used her for around 18 years of my 21-year career. So I was introduced to her by Andy Gummersall very early on, and he was at a stage in his career where he was nearing the end, but he would have been about 36, 37 then. So for him to get to that level, and he'd done amazing things in his career, if people look him up. But
Yes.
I was looking at him going, what's he like? How's he still playing at this level? What's he doing? And he was the first kind of eye opener into what being a professional was about. He was there
Mm.
with his notebook. He was doing all his extra training with Margot Wells. He was doing his extras in the gym, still training every session, durable. And then I was kind of getting a bit of feedback around my speed and power not being good enough. So then, he fair play to him, introduced me to her and continued from then on. And I used her right up to the last day of my career not long ago. And even to those last few months working with her got me through the long drives and commutes to Leicester because I was still living in Esher and in Surrey.
Right.
So that would have really broke my body down if I hadn't had her. So having people like her around, but then invested in physios and therapists and things like that in my own time, training in my own time, just things like that, and then just making the right choices along the way. So I would always look at things around time I go to bed, or I could go see friends, for example, an easy one. Do I want to go see them at late at night, or is it better for me to actually go to bed today because I've got a game in a couple of days or training? And everything was always I look at it as a choice. So I can either do one that would be good for my career, and this probably won't be. And I'd always steer towards that. I'd always ask myself, is it going to be good for my career? Which may be a bit boring to some people, and I missed a lot of stuff as well. And it's obviously hard once you have a partner and a wife
Yeah.
things like that. That's one thing she likes about my retirement now is we can go and do stuff. We can
The
book stuff on
diary's
the
open.
weekend. Yeah, diary's open, which I'm enjoying, to be fair.
Yeah,
Enjoying
absolutely. And
being able to
I
say
think it's a
yes to do
discipline,
stuff.
Matt, and it's a fascinating snapshot. But I think the real power in that message is you started young. We're talking about a 21-year career, and you're talking about, well, 18 years ago, I started looking at innovative ways, different ways, working with different people, and looking after my body. And I think there's a real power in that because a lot of the young athletes we talk to, they're naturally with youth, it's always the same. We think we're indestructible, and
Yeah,
yeah, I can just train, everything will be okay. You invested in yourself, and lo and behold 21 years
yeah,
later, you were still
yeah.
playing. So
And
yeah,
it's
I
like I
like
said,
that.
it is discipline, but it's focused discipline. It's something that actually the last year, Michael Check would speak about it a lot, and actually he's right. Like, yes, you can have discipline, but it could be in completely wrong things. Like but you have to have the focused discipline to be right. Right, I'm focused. I know I need to be disciplined in. Then you go forward with that. If you're just disciplined and it's all over the place, then you're not going to get anywhere. So yeah, it was very much focused discipline, and actually something I took into my be getting ready for transition, and then even to this day, just being having that focused discipline.
Perfect. Yeah, great insights, great insights. I mean, obviously, the purpose of this podcast is around that whole transition piece and sort of how have you prepared? What's that period looked like for you? So, obviously, you mentioned you've only actually been out of the game a couple of months. I think it was May this year was your last month in professional rugby, which is a little bit of a different perspective to those that we've spoken to previously because they're several years out past the journey. So I'd love to just start by hearing sort of how life has looked for you in this sort of first stretch post retirement, and
Yeah,
also what are those day to day looks like, and where are you right now?
yeah. Well, yeah, a lot to unpick there, I guess. Yeah, it's still a world where I'm trying to navigate a new way of living and industries and literally daily, hourly. I'm leaning out of my comfort zone a lot, which is uncomfortable because obviously I've come from 21 years of doing something I'm very comfortable with.
Mhm.
Yep.
So it's very easy to stay in that comfort zone, but now, I'm way out of it. So yeah, but then on the other hand, I have had a softer transition than others because I managed um to kind of get an opportunity for work before my contract ended most recently, which actually helped my decision about around retiring. Um, because I was offered an opportunity in a role in the performance space that I wanted a few months before the end of the season, which I could start part time, which meant the soft team was landed when it finished to then move in full time straight after the end of the season, which I've done. So in that respect, it was kind of the softer land. I was getting used to that new way of living. It was like I was living two lives, two worlds. Like I
Mm.
was living the normal life that I'm living now, but then also still being a professional rugby player, which was quite nice. And then obviously in transition to full time. Um, so yeah, and then I guess the kind of preparation for that started in just after COVID when I kind of committed to a master's degree in sport and directorship because I before that for the last few years before that I was kind of always thinking I know I need to be doing something. I know I should be working out what I want to do, but I couldn't work out what I want to do, and I kept seeing this role that was going up, especially in football, the sport and director role.
Mhm.
Um, and I started researching that, and it was something I was really interested in. I knew I wanted to be in sport, especially elite sport. I knew I wanted to be in that, but being a coach, for example, just didn't fit my skill set or what I was interested in.
Yeah.
And then I started to see this role, more research I did. It's essentially it's like the CEO of the performance side where you're leading and aligning all those performance departments, the strength and conditioning, the first team squad, the academy, medical, all those different departments to a long-term strategy, a medium-term strategy, short-term strategy, creating the performance management processes, as well as, helping to build a squad, recruiting the right people, the environment, the culture, everything, all those performance things that interested me were in this role. So then from there, I spotted this master's at Manchester Met, and I'm not the most academic person. I hadn't done anything since I left sixth form college at 18 and joined Queen's Academy. I hadn't done anything in that time.
Hmm.
Scared the absolute shit out of me. Again, excuse my swearing. I don't know.
It's okay. That's okay.
That's
Yeah.
all fire.
But being honest, it scared the crap out of me because I hadn't done anything academic and I wasn't that academic really. I was just a kind of middle of the road person. So to jump straight to a master's, so it kind of took me a year to kind of be like, "Do you know what, I'm just going to do it." And I did it, got through it. Um, and then that kind of got me on my journey of transition, I think, kind of helped me get out of my comfort zone early on, kind of learn the craft of what I wanted to go into. And then from there, um, that kind of finished around when I didn't have that club for 10 months. And then I really got into networking and connecting with people. Again, being the personality I am, being, I guess, shy, introvert or whatever, that was quite hard. I
Yeah.
Mm.
never really lent into that, but I really did in that period of 10 months when I didn't have a job every day, just connecting with people over Zoom or going to meet people mainly in sport, but like all different industries to try and learn, create opportunities, speak to people, which was amazing. It basically just around learning the skill of connecting with someone, going and have a conversation with someone, and then the opportunities that come off that. Then I joined a course at the FA because I wanted to lean into, again, out of my comfort zone around getting into a different sport. I mean, it would
Mm.
be amazing to end up in football because of how big it is, the
Yeah.
money, the opportunities that you can do there around that. So that was a draw as well. But just to get into a different industry um, was what I wanted to do, especially in sports. So managed to get on that, having spent a lot of time connecting with people at the FA, because usually it's for the football people in roles, especially
Right.
recruit. So it was the FA level four leadership in talent ID and development. So a lot of recruiting people on there. So did that, passed that. So got that on a CV tick. Uh,
Nice.
so yeah, and then it was at Leicester. So then kind of continued trying to connect with people and learn. And then I kind of hit a spot where the last about a year and a half, year ago, where I thought what I would do is get some work experience, maybe at Leicester with their equivalent of a sporting director for
Hmm.
free. Just pick up some work from him if there's stuff he didn't want to do. And that didn't really materialize apart from kind of doing a feasibility report on the women's team there, which was really interesting. Apart from that, it didn't really go anywhere. So I kind of hit a roadblock. And Michael Checker then came in, who's very experienced. He was the head coach for
Hmm.
that year. Very experienced in international rugby, especially as head coaches go, but also in business. He is
Yes.
a multi-million pound business owner in
Yeah.
fashion, weirdly.
In
If you see
fashion, yeah.
what gear he wears as well,
That's a
you never
dichotomy.
know.
Yeah.
But essentially it's around fashion
Yeah.
distribution, I think.
Yes.
So um I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go and speak to him and kind of lean on his experiences and his knowledge to business and sport to see where I could take it, and explained it to him. And he was like, do you know what, Mike, don't do it here because that would be the easy thing. Get out to different industries, leveraging um, what you've learned in your career around, performance, environments, culture, all those sort of things, which also is my passion as well and what
Yeah.
I want to stay in. So that helped, and kind of do it as like a consultant. So I thought that's an absolutely brilliant idea. So I set up my consultancy, MB15 high performance. which I'm growing at the moment. And yeah, again, started getting out there, connecting with people, and then off the back of that and putting that on LinkedIn, um, which again is a powerful tool for anyone listening. Again, I've never been into the posting on social media and stuff, but for the transition stuff, use it, do it. Don't even worry about how you look. Just
Yeah.
it's sometimes a bit cringe, but
Yeah.
just get yourself out there because it's so powerful. Put that on LinkedIn, and then off of that back of that, someone just messaged me out of the blue who just happened to be a CEO founder of a fintech company, was looking for someone in a high performance role to come in full time essentially. But for me, it ended up being that part time role before the end of the season to move into full time, and that's kind of where I'm at now. So it kind of
Fabulous.
all rolled into that, and
Yeah.
it's weird how I always wanted to be in elite sport, and I think I will end up back there at some point, and this is just kind of adding to my learnings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just ended up in in the middle of central London around all the bankers and things like that.
Yeah.
Feeling very different, looking very different. A bit, unsure what's going on. But it's again, like I said, it's great learning. And then up to now, I'm actually navigating again into a different direction. Sorry if I'm rambling on,
No,
but
no, no. It's
No,
a great
no,
it's
good.
story.
changed over the last week. So um, it looks like my projects and contract are going to come to an end naturally, really. And so now I'm navigating towards looking for new projects and looking for a diverse range of projects. So, for example, just started doing some afternoons at school in that performance space, a bit of coaching, but also off-field mentoring. I'm
Yeah.
doing stuff as performance support at a local rugby team, Reeds Weybridge, around leadership development and coach support, and then a bit of technical and tactical on the field stuff as well. But then also some consultancy stuff, looking for projects with businesses, different industries around in the performance space, basically. So I've kind of just navigated towards that because I think that diversity is what I really need, and not being stuck in one place.
Yeah.
But also they aren't in a position to kind of grow and push on with my role and the projects I'm doing. I've got them to a certain place, if that makes sense.
Yes. Perfect
So
sense.
the next few months I'll be there finishing them off and kind of making sure they're embedded, and then moving into hopefully 4, 5, 6 different projects to move forward. Sorry,
Yeah.
I've rambled on a bit there. There's a
No,
lot
No,
Mike,
no,
there.
listen,
no, no.
I was scribbling,
I was
scribbling
on a
notes. I
roll, so I
think,
thought I'd carry on.
no, it's brilliant because genuinely, Mike, what's fabulous about this is you've just given a timeline that we can just quickly pull out some of the core messaging that we're talking about with athletes day in, day out. And so I think a theme you mentioned repeatedly, getting out of your comfort zone.
Oh,
You've
dude,
gone
yeah.
back into academia, you've gone into doing a master's, you've gone into the FA, into a different sport, a different sector. And so that is something that we would reinforce and say time and time again, you've got to get out your comfort zone to grow. I think the other key thing that comes out is not necessarily knowing what you wanted. You mentioned about, well, I knew I should be doing something, but I wasn't quite sure. So again, that normalizes a fear that a lot of people say, I know I should know, but I don't know. So actually following the steps you took about being curious, asking questions, getting out there and having Zoom calls, meetings, meeting people for coffees, that's the only way to build clarity. Nobody's going to come down with a silver bullet and say, this is exactly what you should do. You got to that point by doing a master's, doing the elite qualifications with the FA, and then asking questions to your coach. And it reinforces something, Mike, that we say a lot. There's resource all around us if we go looking for it. Your coach, Michael Checker, was there, and he's a successful businessman, as you rightly say. How many people were going and asking him about his business journey? You did, and he gave you an idea. So I think, and what's also interesting in your story is, I want to do the sports directorship. I'm invested in doing a master's to do that, but having the courage to say, oh, I've got another idea here. Whereas sometimes people get blinkered. Well, I've made a decision. I've studied this. I have to do it. I thought I wanted to be a coach. Therefore, I have to be a coach. You can still circle back, but you've now given yourself insights into business. You're still connected into sport, as you've said. And as you've said at the end there, I can probably go back into the sporting directorship if I want, but you're going to go from a place of having actually experienced business, and totally different perspectives. So whilst you might say that was a ramble, actually for us, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a magic bullet. Go and ask people. And I think to your immense credit, the other thing that's really powerful is that 10-month window. Because when we face adversity, a lot of people, they withdraw. They become, reflective. They become down, sometimes worse. It can impact their mental health. I think that's another really powerful message to people, that you took that up. You stayed fit. You looked after your physical health, which allowed you to be available. You took the time and used the time, even though there was a lot of pressure around you, to connect and to network. And then you were proactive. You saw the opportunity yourself watching a game and said, "Hey, my bags are packed. I can be down there and I can come and train." So I think there's a lot of power in that. And we talk a lot about transferable skills, Mike, and you've shown a lot there of resilience, that proactivity. I think another thing just to mention, put yourself out there. Lots of players, like you say, I'm not interested in posting from a vanity point of view on social media.
I was one of them. Honestly, the way I am as a person, that doesn't sit comfortably with me. But that's why
Exactly.
I wanted to emphasize that, especially using LinkedIn. But it's the same with Instagram. Like, it's so powerful, and there's so many people that want to help you that you don't even realize. Like,
Yeah.
and is it essentially for who you are, what you've done? But you know what? Sod it, use it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you might as well. You've worked so hard for, whether it be 1 year to, if you're lucky enough to last the 21 years that I have, however long it's been, people like to help other people that are in sport, for example. So
Yes.
use it, like, be shameless, because why not? You've worked hard enough in it. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
And LinkedIn is you said it perfectly. People are out there to help, but if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't cast that proverbial fishing line into the pond, you're never going to get those bites. So just give us a bit of a snapshot, because this probably lines into your consultancy now, the MB15, and the work you're doing. We often say to people, what skills are you bringing out of sport that are serving you well in industry? And for you, you're so new in that window. We're still in months rather than years, as Carl said. But there'll be principles probably that you're taking into that consultancy work you're now doing with business. But it's an open question, I know.
yeah,
When you look back at that 20 years, Mike, what sort of things? Because why we always ask this is a lot of athletes say, "I don't know what I've got to bring. I don't know what skill. I'm a hockey player. I'm a basketball player. I'm a rugby player. I'm a soccer player. Whatever it is." Well, you're a lot more than that, and you've got skills that you've been sharpening. You're not always aware of them, and they will serve you. So, what are some of the skills that you would say I've carried
yeah.
that out of sport and they really serve me well now in business?
Yeah, do you know what? It's actually skills that I've tried to use for the whole transition, not just in a new role in industry.
Right.
And one of the best bits of advice someone gave me around transition was essentially use the skills and the mindset that you have as an athlete in your work to get ready for that transition,
Yep.
also into your next career. So if you look at an athlete, that drive for results, that commitment, that resilience, the work ethic, all those things, put that into your transition work, which is what I've tried to do. Um, and then it's the same when you get a job. Like, no one can outwork an athlete. Like, the athletes have such high work ethic and drive. They have to for what they've achieved, right? So
Yes.
put that into your role. You'll learn all those little technical skills that you need. You aren't going to be ready for you aren't going to be fully ready for a role, whatever you go into. You just aren't,
Yep.
because we've been doing something else.
Of course.
Um, so just lean into those things that have got you to where you were as an athlete, whatever level it was, however long it was. You had something that you can use in your next career. So use them and use that work ethic and all those things, and you'll learn everything else. Like, no one will have what you've got. And I think it's being aware of that as well as a person, which actually my wife has pushed me the most in terms of that. I would go, "Oh, I'm going to struggle at this, or I won't be able to do this, or definitely there's no point in applying for this, or whatever, because I don't have the experience. My CV's got like two things on it." And she was like, look how long you played rugby for. That is experience. That is a career. Like, that's a career that not many other people have. That is your CV. Like,
Yes.
just use that, because you almost feel a
Absolutely.
bit shamed. You're like, "Oh, I've just been a rugby player. I've only done this.
Yeah.
Only played rugby for however many years," and you kind of feel ashamed to say it, and you don't think it's a big thing, but it is, because of what you have to put into it. That
Absolutely. And what you
100%.
framed there,
shows what
Mike,
you can do.
You framed it perfectly. We hear this a lot. I am only an X. And so you've just given a perfect counter argument to that. And you've hit the nail on the head. And we'll just reiterate it to anchor it in with anybody that's still competing. You will never be as technically competent at somebody in a sector that you've not been in. How can you be? But they have training programs to develop your technical competency in the same way that you are not going to be as gifted at any sporting pursuit or any discipline on the day one to where you are at the end of your career. So don't fear the technical gaps. They'll train you on that. But those traits and those transferable skills and that drive and that work ethic, that is something that's in you that a lot of people in those sectors don't have. So you can fill the technical bit, but you will start from a competitive advantage in all the things you've alluded to. So it just flips the mindset from, as you say, oh, I don't think I should apply. I'm on the back foot. No, I'm on the front foot. I've got a lot to offer, and I back myself to apply my work ethic to get the technical competency as quick as anybody ever has done. Because technical competency is about how hard do you want to learn, how many conversations do you want to have, how quickly do you want to get through the training program, how much work do you want to put in, and whether you're learning to play an instrument, swing a golf club, or develop technical competency in a role. The more you put in, the quicker you get there. Yeah. So I think it's a good example, Mike.
Yeah, I think it's just for people listening to have awareness of it only takes one person to realize those skills you have that other people won't, and kind of take a punt on you without knowing that you have the work ethic, etc., to then, pick up on the skills and the competencies that you're saying. Just takes one person, so don't get disheartened. Keep putting yourself out there. Don't be shy of speaking about those skills and mindset things we're talking about, and pushing that. And don't feel like you're being arrogant or anything like that. Push that, because it is so strong and powerful. And like I said, it just takes one person to go, oh yeah, actually, we need that. We need that work ethic and that person that will drive our environment and culture in terms of that, and display those behaviors and standards that we want in our organization. We want that person, and we can pick up the rest along the way.
Yeah, incredibly powerful. And just to that point as well, we've done some work previously with athletes that have gone into Deloitte or Deloitte, however you say it, and they've always had this pathway into athletes. They want to bring athletes into their business, and they did sort of an internal review about what happens to the departments when we implement a former elite athlete, and productivity increased by 152% across the board. And it had nothing to do with that individual skill set or how they came in and sort of performed the role from day one. It was all the little soft skills behind the scenes that nobody sees. And all of a sudden, his colleagues are sat there thinking, how is he doing that? Why is he now there? Why is she so good at that? And that just rubs off on everybody else. So that question, the transferable skills, is so powerful, because nobody sits the younger athletes down and say, do you realize X, Y, and Z is going to carry you in seriously good stead when you leave this game? So it's really nice to hear that perspective from someone that's been there and done it and is going through that journey, and just sort of continue that trend and the benefit of hindsight and sort of lessons for current athletes. Now that you do have a few months of sort of perspective, if you could rewind and give yourself a something that sort of really helped you in this transition, and then a little bit on the flip side, something that's maybe you don't, what hasn't helped in this period since you left rugby, what would be something that sort of popped to mind for that?
Oh, that's hard. Because I'm still so early on, it's so hard for me to think of an answer for both of those, because I've not been in it long enough to reflect back. I think do's is what we've covered already, like, leading into what you've been in as an athlete in that transition. First the work leading up to it, and then whatever comes after that. But what shouldn't you do?
What's your perspective on time, Mike? I think one of the things and just get your steer on it, you sound like obviously very disciplined, very focused, very dedicated, from everything from your sleep you talked about to your body mechanics. One of the don'ts that comes up a lot is almost wasting time. As an elite athlete, there's a certain amount of time you can train, watch film, analyze, lift weights, etc. There's quite a lot of time to apply to other things. What's your take on that? Because we often get, well, I haven't really got time. And I think that's actually a bit of a delusion. I think there is time in most elite athletes'
Yeah.
working calendar to apply to prepare and to try and get the clarity. Would that resonate with you? Is that something you would look at? Because you've been in those camps,
Yeah.
you've been around people that were probably really dynamic and proactive when they had some downtime, and you've probably
Yeah.
been around people that probably just sat in the coffee shop or on an Xbox for 10 years. So
Yeah,
you've probably seen
and
all
look,
elements.
I definitely had those moments, and especially around that England period, my focus and my mindset was all around the only thing I have is that, like, that is my only focus. That's the only thing I'm thinking about. Anything else is a distraction. So I had that where I wasn't doing anything else but thinking about Quins,
Yeah,
England, playing for England, recovery, resting, and when I was resting, I would play PlayStation or I
yeah,
don't know, sit in a coffee shop or watch a film. So I had that moment, but also that was a big period where you're thinking I do need to do something, but I'm not sure. So I wasn't sure as well. So I don't know whether if I'd gone, ding, yeah, I want to do that, whether I would have used more time around that transition stuff. But it just wasn't. I still would have thought it was a distraction.
yeah,
But then, but on the other hand, I've always been a very planned, prepared person. And at that time, it was all around my career. So yes, I did have those down times that you're talking about, but I was very planned and prepared around making as much use of my time to be ready for rugby and be the
yes,
best I can in rugby, which actually reflecting back and again goes back into the point of using what you've learned an athlete. That has made me, helped me be a planned, prepared person when I was going through the preparation for my transition, all that work, making sure things like diary, putting stuff in the diary and around meetings and networking and still getting time for training and then family and then now into my role, meetings and make sure you're on time and scheduling in the right things at the right time, making sure you're being as efficient as you can in the day, especially around family as well, because I've got a young family. I'm having to fit things in all
yeah,
over, like this, for example.
yeah,
I can openly say like it's not a normal thing for me to have to push people back and change times, which I had to do with you guys, and
yeah.
thankfully been very understanding about it because I'm
No
still kind of
problem.
navigating new way of living. But you know, it's because you're kind of having to change stuff around and be planned and prepared around that. So yeah, I wasn't as using my time as efficiently as I looking back I could have done around things outside of rugby, but that was because I was so narrow focused on playing. And I
Yeah.
think what allowed me to achieve what I did with England because I think I needed to be that person.
And it's
Mm.
been ruthless, isn't it? And I think there's no right and wrong answer to these
No.
questions, Mike. That's why we like perspectives. I think one of the things I would throw in the mix there is that you've talked a lot during our conversation about clarity. You sort of know there's a bit of a sort of a niggle. I should be doing, but I'm not quite sure what. So I'm just going to stay very much focused on what I'm doing
Yeah.
now. I think that's where we try and help, as an organization, when we're doing the coaching and the mentoring with individuals, it's to explore what's important to them. It's to explore what interests them, what excites them, and just start to sow some seeds about where you might deploy time and energy, who you might
Yeah.
speak to, the Michael Checkers in your situation. So a lot of people say, I don't really know. That's part of our work to help build some
Yeah.
clarity. Equally, we would never ever say, hey, neglect your recovery, neglect your diet, do everything about what you're doing next and don't be fully present on what you're doing. But
Yeah.
the slight nuance to that is we found that when people have something to explore away from the intensity of the competition,
Yeah. That's
it
yeah.
allows them to remove some of the mental pressure and to re-energize a bit, even if it's only 2 or 3 hours a week, just to say, I'm going to put a bit of work into my LinkedIn, or I'm going to put a little bit of work into a
Yeah.
website idea. I'm going to go and have a couple of Zoom calls with people. Then there's plenty of time to still be fully focused on your discipline,
Yeah.
but you're perhaps slightly more energized and slightly less mental pressure as a consequence.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say, like, I think actually reflecting back, one thing, and I guess it's a do I wish I'd done in that time before I knew what I was doing, like you're saying, is finding things to lean out of my comfort zone more
Mm,
because I felt that has been so powerful when I've done that and build so much confidence and belief in what you're doing, which you kind of need in that transition period, especially. I wish I'd done that more. And just for my own growth, I
yeah.
very much stated I didn't want to try things because how it looked or, you know, um, if I got it wrong or if I'd be
Mhm.
embarrassed, all those sort of things. So it was just like, oh yeah, not, things like public speaking is still a massive thing for me, but I've started trying to do it a bit more. I'd have never done that when I was
Yeah.
playing for England in that period. I wish I'd pushed myself to do something like that, or do a
Mm.
course which would have pushed me out, or network a bit more during
Yeah.
that time, because
Ex-
you never know,
all
opportunities and
valid.
ideas might have come sooner.
Exactly, all
Yeah.
valid, Mike, and that's why it's nice to hear you say it, because you don't. I had a mentor when I was young. He used to have a great phrase: "You don't know what you don't know." So you
Yeah, yeah,
need people to sort of open your perspectives. But I think you're giving us some great snapshots, some great wisdom, Mike. We always sort of just wrap things up with a bit of a quick fire round. So if we were to say to you, best piece of advice you've ever been given, it could be sport related, it could be life related. You've been on a really eclectic journey. You've been at the very top of elite environments. What piece of advice really sticks in your minds through your life so far?
yeah. I don't have any great phrases or anything like that. I think one goes back to this transition period is the one about leaning into what's got you to where you have done as an athlete
Yeah.
in what's next, or working towards not what's next. I think the belief thing's a big one, which really comes from my wife, like believing in yourself as a person, what you can do, what you can bring to other people, your value, have belief in that, because that can
Mhm.
get knocked down, especially in sport. Um, yeah, I think those two. But and then it's just around, I guess, work ethic. Like nothing beats work ethic, but it has to be focused. There has to be discipline around it. That um, but yeah, just working hard, trying to outwork people and yourself, and just spending that time, money, and effort into what you want to do and what you want to achieve. Like there's no substitute for that in my eyes.
Yeah.
It's just work ethic is and like you said as well, it's contagious for other people. You know, not stupid work ethic where you're spending till midnight doing work. Because that's not focus, that's not discipline, but like you know, real work ethic that's going to get you to where you want to is what is the foundations, and contagious, like I said.
Yeah, no, love it. Great answer, Mike. You're obviously someone who likes to learn, likes to grow. You've talked about a variety of courses, the masters, the FA qualifications. We always ask if there's a particular book that anybody's read along their journey that they recommend. Maybe a book, maybe a podcast. Is there anything in particular that comes to mind to that's had an impact on you that you'd say, yeah, that was something that I'd recommend?
Yeah, I just want to double check what the title's called so I get it right.
No problem.
Because I wrote some notes on my computer. I sound like a bit of a geek now, don't
Not at
I?
all.
I'm looking at that now. It's called Sentinels. It's 12 Great Habits of Great Enduring Organizations. And I only say that, not necessarily the best, but it's the one I read most recently. And it's just around the habits of organizations that have, been consistently at the top of their game for a good number of years. And that's across all industries, sport, business. And it's so interesting. Um, Around those, and actually you can use them as an individual, and it's all around the work you need to do in your environment and your culture, behaviors and habits, and experts, and what else is there? Making time for connections. So they talk about breaking bread and how important it is to spend time with people, informally and formally, create that time, that space for people to talk and be creative and innovative and have discussions, which organizations forget sometimes, even in
Absolutely.
sport. Even in sport, we go
Yeah.
through the grind of season and we forget, spend time with each other and stuff like that. And I've been guilty of that. Again, being so narrow focused on preparation and discipline, but actually sometimes doing those sort of things. But yeah, read
Yeah.
that book. It's
No, that
great.
sounds like it's not one I've read. I don't know if you've read it, Carl, but it's definitely going
No.
on the list. It's part of the benefit of always asking this question. You're learning all the time.
Yeah,
So I
I
think,
loved it, and I actually bought a copy for my CEO at the moment, um, because there were some things around what I was saying around my role not progressing and things as much as I'd like.
yes.
Things in there that I was kind of like being like, look, we should look at that, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
that's
It's a great gift. I was having this chat just the other day, mate. When people have got all they need, they get to a certain stage in life. It's like, what do you get people? Actually, sometimes the gift of a book, something that's impacted you, you pass that on. It's a great gift, particularly if there's a subliminal message and you've put a highlighter
exactly,
in the
yeah.
book and you're
Yeah,
like,
for him,
read that.
yeah, yeah. It helped me in my
Yeah.
role. I don't think he's read it. Yeah, it would help me in my role, but also I think for him as a CEO, it'd be great learning because and that's what I'm there for, like, the performance of individual teams. So he came to mind as soon as I read it, and I was like, oh, I've got to give it to him. Gave it to him. So hopefully he does read it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll send
I'm
him a
still
link
there.
to this when it goes live, and make
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
he'll
yeah.
listen and go, "Oh, that was
Yeah,
me."
maybe not.
Yeah. So, listen, Mike,
Yeah,
it's
so
been
that was just
absolutely fabulous talking to you. I think
Yeah.
you've given us wonderful insights. Credit to you. You've had a wonderful career, and it's exciting to see how quickly you're adjusting and building your own brand and building your own business and getting out of your comfort zone, which has certainly been a theme of our discussion. I think one final question. If we were to talk to somebody in your network about their story of transition, whose name comes to mind? Because everything we do on this podcast is about accessing wisdom, accessing insights. You've been phenomenal today. Is there anybody that you'd recommend, say, they'd be a great guest on the podcast? They've got a good story to share.
Yeah. I would say two guys come to mind straight away, and that would be a guy called Jordan Turner Hall, who was my teammate and housemate back in the Quins days around 2012 when we won. He was in that core group of English individuals that came through the academy together. And I lived in kind of academy house with him.
Right.
Great person. Like,
Yeah, I played against him. I've still got nightmares of Jordan.
yeah, big lump money. But just in terms, he's a coach now with the academy.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone that can connect and with humans the way he does, apart from Scott Robinson. So that's a big comparison. Like,
Yeah.
he's just such a good man, and he was great for me in that period when I didn't have a club. He got me down to Worthing to do some stuff there. He just helped keep me busy, checking in with me because he'd been through a very rough transition.
Right.
So his story, way, way, way harder than anything I've experienced. Like, and the way he's got to where he is now,
Well,
and
it's
doing
fabulous
thriving.
endorsement. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible human. So yeah, speak to him. And the other one would be Jack Clifford. Again, had a rough ride with injuries, had to transition way, way earlier than he needed to. Navigated going into jobs that he didn't want to be in and weren't good for him. Really struggled, I think, as well. And then now he's thriving in a role at Gallagher's, doing really well. Two very different characters, but two great men that also helped me in my transition as well.
Yeah.
Especially Jordan. I still speak to him to this day and see him as much as I can. Around what I'm saying about my projects and things coming to end in my current role, I was leaning on him for advice and someone to talk to about a week ago around that because I was a bit down and not really sure which way to turn. So,
Yeah.
yeah, speak to those two.
Great. Lovely,
Perfect.
lovely endorsements, and the power of a network and staying connected and breaking bread with people is to really see that human side. If they were listening to this episode, what a lovely endorsement, particularly to Jordan, that you've given him there. So final thing. Obviously, you're still building your network, building your brand, Mike. If people want to find you, connect, learn more about your consultancy, etc., where's the best place to find you? You've mentioned LinkedIn, Instagram. Are they the two predominant channels for you?
Yeah, Instagram. So that's my personal and consultancy handle now. So yeah, that's the best place to get me on Instagram. I did have two separate, but I thought I'd bring them in house a lot easier to handle. And then LinkedIn, LinkedIn for anything in terms of opportunities, work opportunities, consultancy opportunities, and I try and talk about performance on both. So those are probably the two best. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we'll make
Perfect.
sure the links of those are built into the show notes. And all that remains to be said is massive thank you. Really appreciate your time. I know you're juggling childcare, business, all those new challenges of the transition.
Toddler today.
Yeah.
Toddler today. Yeah, brilliant.
Toddler with you, exactly. And you've managed it. You've got through it. So thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Cheers,
Thanks
Mike.
so much for having me, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us this week in our ATA podcast. If you found this conversation insightful and it resonates with your journey, please subscribe, follow the show, and stay connected with us for more insight, resources, and information on how we at ATA are supporting your preparation for life beyond the game.